Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now this time we will be starting off the Black Adam movie wave. Now, as you know, I am notoriously late on movie figures. I ended up never really doing the Suicide Squad, which I still really want to get to. I also didn't really do too many of the Batman figures, even though I did buy most of them and the vehicles. But it's just that I've never really been a big live action figure collector. I pretty much have been doing it now because the figures do look really good. The Suicide Squad figures I really loved, especially King Shark. But I've just let it get away from me, and now I'm too far behind. So I might just have to do one like video just on a retrospective of the Suicide Squad wave. But eventually I will do it. I have tons of stuff backed up. I have a stack of single release figures. On this side I have a bunch of figures that have come in and that I still haven't looked at. So I'm really backed up. But, you know, it is what it is. I will try to get to everything. Now I wanted to jump on this Black Adam wave because the figures look really good. I'm really interested to get to Hawkman and Atom Smasher. I really want to take a look at those. So before it gets too out of reach, let's go ahead and start it off with Dr. Fate. Now, of course, this is the movie version of Dr. Fate. So you have to take into consideration that this is, you know, based on the movie concepts. It's not the comic version, nor does it try to be the comic version. It is the version from the film. But it can actually be a pretty beautiful and well articulated figure for your collection. So I'm really excited to take a closer look at this figure. Now, he does look pretty mystical in the packaging. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at it. But first, he does come with your standard clear McFarlane flight stand. Now, of course, you know, people know how to put this together. You slip this in here and you display your figures in a flight pose. So we'll add this to the collection. He also comes with his data file card. On the front, you do have some comic stylized images of Dr. Fate from the movie. Looks pretty good. And on the back, you do have some information. Now, it does say that this is Kent Nelson. There have been many Dr. Fates. If you look into the comic lore, you have different versions of Dr. Fate. As we always know, when they transition into the film, they never really do it exactly. It's more of a stylized version that they want to go with. So even though Dr. Fate from the comics has his own color schemes and images, we have not actually gotten a Dr. Fate from the comics from McFarlane. We've only gotten the Injustice version. We did get that Wonder Woman from Last Night on Earth with the Dr. Fate helmet, but we have not actually received a Dr. Fate from the comics. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. First impressions, he looks really, really good. Now, at first when I saw him, for some reason I thought like the gold was really, really, you know, brilliant, really like a high yellow. But honestly, it is not. It is more of like a royal gold, I would say, almost like a bronze even. Now, it's really hard for them to reproduce the version that is in the film because I have been, you know, looking it up now that I was going to review the figure. And the helmet is actually more like a chrome gold. So if you were to see it, it would be like a really yellow gold and you would see, you know, your reflection on it because it's so chrome. Now, I have seen a lot of people, you know, reviewing this figure and saying that the helmet is ugly and that it's not the real Dr. Fate helmet. And but if they would, you know, take a little time to understand, this is the movie version of Dr. Fate, not their beloved comic version that they want, so bad. But eventually, I'm pretty sure we will get a comic Dr. Fate from McFarlane. But once again, this is the movie version. Now, besides that, the costume actually is really beautiful. It is intricately detailed. There's a lot of, little details in the sculpt work of the suit and even on the cape. And we will be taking a look at all of that. But all in all, for first impressions, it is a beautifully sculpted figure. And I, for one, am enjoying it for what it is, its interpretation of Dr. Fate in the film. Now let's go ahead and take a look at that ugly helmet, that, as they say. Well, first of all, it is asymmetrical, which means one side does not necessarily match the other. One side is more like damaged and beat up. The other side is a little bit more smooth and clean. Now, I didn't notice this at first, but one of his ears, his right ear, is actually exposed, while the left ear is actually covered by the nymph metal. Now, that is another thing, is that the reason this one does not need eye holes to see is because this is a nymph metal. It's kind of like the Batman Who Laughs headgear, which he could actually see through it. So it's kind of like looking through like aviator sunglasses. They're chrome on the outside, but you could actually see through it. So that's more of what this metal is supposed to be like a kind of transparent metal from one side looking out, but you just can't see in. And as I said before, studying this version of the figure, I found that it is supposed to be more like a chrome, metal helmet. And this is, of course, just a flat, kind of bronzish gold. But to make a mass market Dr. Fate movie figure, it's, perfect. This is as close as they could get. And I actually am a little bit more persuaded to like this helmet. Why? Because it is actually the movie version, and this is the helmet that will be in the film. So I'm more partial to actually leave this helmet. But we do know that there has been different versions of the helmet released by McFarlane, so we will be taking a look at those. But for now, to me, this helmet looks really good. It has a lot of details, the battle damage. There is sort of like stylized lines on the other side. So we'll have to see the movie to find out specifically why the helmet is the way it is. Let's check out his articulation. He can look down very well. Surprisingly, he can also look up pretty good, so you don't really need to mob this head. He looks up, enough. You got right to left, and you can tilt his head for some character, so that's always nice. Now let's take a look at the rest of the costume. If you look down, he has this like draping, intertwined sort of upper chest armor kind of, draped over him. It looks really good. It kind of gives more of like a tendril or like organic sort of, feel to his suit, which looks pretty good. As you move down, you get into this belt. Now, this is where I first noticed that there's like a statue version of this character, and on the statue you get a different color scheme than this one, and that is actually more to what the movie is. So you would actually see a lighter blue on this suit to bring out, all those little designs and hieroglyphs that are carved on it. And then on the belt, this little disc is actually supposed to be red. So that's where looking into other images and source material actually help to give you a better idea of what the figures could actually be, with a little bit of added paint and detail. But the belt looks really nice, really forms around his waist. And then, of course, how I said the design of his suit is really nice and organic. Let's take a look at the waist. He does have side to side. We do get that full range of waist motion. Lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel, and you can twist him to get him in some cool poses. Now, he does have a slight crunch, but it's very minimal. It's more like at the waist, but you can lean him back and get him in some pretty awesome flight poses. All in all, pretty good. Let's take a look at the shoulder. He does have a butterfly bushing shoulder joint under there. It does give you up and down, front to back. A lot of rotation in there. He does have a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows that actually look pretty good, pretty clean. Going from the shoulder down into the gauntlet. Beautiful sculpt work on the suit. You could see all those, onks and glyphs carved in there. Then you get to his gauntlets that are nicely sculpted. Beautiful wrist ball joints. Now, one thing I will say is I did have to heat this in hot water because I could not twist it. But once I did heat it in hot water, it did break free. And now he does have swivel and hinge at the wrist to give him that full McFarlane articulation. Go to the other side and he has the same nice sculpt work and hinged wrist. Looks really good. Now they did give him some cool mystical hands this time. No fist or trigger finger hands, which is really appreciated. But all in all, arms are good. Now he can do a T-pose. A little bit restricted by his shoulder, the garbs that go over his shoulder. But surprisingly, if you move his arms forward, he can lift his hands above his head, because since it's like a soft rubber, it does move out of the way. Pretty nice. Let's go down to the thigh swivel. Let's check it out. Oh, this guy has some awesome thigh swivel range. It actually goes gives you a good rotation. No need for a thigh cut at all. He actually kicks up really high. And he kicks back even higher. Now this is allowed by the rubber in the trunks, and when you put it back, they go back to their original form. Now this trunks part is actually really fitted in well. It has like a little bit of narrowness to where his hips would be, and then it allows the legs to come out from there, so it looks really clean and the silhouette does not break up, at all. So really beautiful job there. You could cock his leg out, bend his knee. He does have that awesome hip swivel. Double jointed knees that also look really nice. Straighten them out. At the ankle you have up and down, right to left, rocker, and toe articulation. Now once again, I could not get the rocker on this one, so I had to dip it in hot water, but once I did that, it did pop free, and now the rocker actually works pretty freely. So that's just a tip, Do not try and force these figures. If they stiffen up on you, just use some hot water or a hair dryer. I prefer the hot water because it kind of, it's hard to explain, but it softens it up like in a different way than a hair dryer does. And it just makes it a lot, it's less likely that it'll actually snap on you. So that's why I prefer to use hot water. Before we go, let's take a look at the legs. Beautiful gold paint that they used, even though it is a little bit, I'd say dingy. Like I said before, it's more like a bronze gold. But beautiful sculpt work in the ankle ball joint. Beautiful sculpt work in the actual, top of the boots. And then you got those same glyphs and carvings throughout the suit. Which now that I look at it, I know that a little bit of lighter blue wash over it would not only make those symbols pop, but would give the figure like a different tone, a different feel to it. Because this is almost black. And now that I've seen images, I know it's supposed to be more of a lighter blue. So we'll look into doing that, but let's take a look at them from the bottom. No treads, no identifying marks. Moving up the back. Beautiful sculpt work on the back of the boots. You got those glyphs. You got the butt, and you got the back of the belt, which I really like the way it dissipates into the top of the trunks. It looks really cool effect there. And then of course you have this cape. Now it is a really nice bronze gold underneath, And then on the back, it is like a almost black dark blue, like a midnight blue, but of course should have a little bit of light blue wash on it. So we're gonna have to end up doing that and then showing it on the next figure review. That way I don't have to do it this time, but I will show it when I do the next figure. Got some added little details at the base of his neck, which are awesome. But you got some little type of symbols in there, which is a nice touch. And then you do have the back of the helmet, which also has a little bit of added details in it. Right at the back of the brim of the helmet. Looks really cool. Actually, an awesome figure. I'm actually really happy to get into this wave and add him to the collection. Now, let's do a couple of things. First off, I do have some pieces of, I would say, like magic effects, energy effects, and these I actually took from the Injustice Flash because he had like a long tendril with like a ball on it. But since I have both versions, I actually have two of those, and I decided to use that to make some like energy effects or magic effects for these figures. And this one actually fits perfectly onto his hand, and it fits really good with him. You could actually slip it on in different configurations onto his wrist and hand, and it looks really good for some magic effects. I would prefer to do this than to take like lightning effects from like another toy company or like another McFarlane figure, but that it's more like lightning. This looks a lot more like free flowing and like energy, kind of like smokish. So that's why I use that with him. I did talk about the different Dr. Fate helmets that we have received. Now, I'd say first up, let's do the Last Night on Earth. Now, this did come with the Last Night on Earth Wonder Woman. And I actually like this one because it has more glyphs on it and more design. But let's see how it looks on this Dr. Fate body. Actually looks pretty good. And then of course we have the helmet from the Injustice 2 Dr. Fate. Now this one is slightly different because it doesn't have so many glyphs on it or designs. It's a little bit more standard, just Dr. Fate, more simple classic version. But let's see how it looks on this body. It looks passable as well. It is a little bit more shinier of a gold. When you really look at it, the suit armor on the Dr. Fate, like I said, is a more blander gold, and this one is a really high yellow gold. So not necessarily a match. And in all honesty, I'm actually leaning more towards the Last Night on Earth helmet. It just looks better and fits better with the armor on this costume. I don't know, and then it's like a duller gold than this one is, so it actually fits a little bit better. But I have to be honest, I'm actually liking the helmet that it comes with because that is the version that is supposed to be with this costume. So I'm gonna stick with the regular movie version Dr. Fate helmet. To me, it is not ugly. To me, it actually looks really cool and is a new, unique design that we have not seen before. I know it's hard for people to get out of their old ways and move into newer versions, but it is what it is. I do like this figure. It is going into my collection, and we will be taking a look at the rest of the Black Adam wave. Now, speaking of that, we will be taking a look at Hawkman next, and we will be swapping out the wings with these articulated Tyrant wings. Of course, I'll have to paint these first, but that will be the next review that we do. And when I do that review, I will show the repaint I do on this version, just so you guys could see, the difference of how it looks with a little bit lighter blue scheme on that costume. But all in all, happy to get into this wave. Love this figure. He looks really cool. The articulation is awesome. The scope work is, off the charts. The attention to detail in the costume, in the cape, in the armor, in the boots, it's just something that you do not see in other lines, where it's just like painted flat plastic with no design in the costume at all. I know this is because this is a movie version, that's why it has a lot more, design work in it, but it still looks good to me. But you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.